Welcome to Retiring Well. We've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to be starting off talking about the order of account withdrawals. You're going to want to be paying attention to taxes and the implications that can have. Jack and Lee will then be doing a deep dive into dollar decisions. What are cash flow statements? What does that look like with assets, liabilities, all that fun terminology? And then the inside scoop with Ray on UGMA and UTMA accounts. What are they? How could they apply to your maybe children or grandchildren? And then lastly, Joe will be giving an insurance insight into long-term care planning. It's one of those hot button topics that you want to be paying attention to and learning as much as possible. So all this and a whole lot more coming up right here, right now on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well. Plan to retire well.
You've gotten to retirement. Now it's time to start taking some money out of those accounts and having fun. But wait, there's different ways to take money out and some very important things to consider. We're going to talk about 3 of those things today with the order of account withdrawals. 3 things to think about is age-based, tax-based, and investment-based reasons. So starting off age-based, different accounts have different rules about when you can access those. Think of retirement accounts as an example. Pre-59 and a half, you might want to consider that. There could be early withdrawal penalties. And then after that, usually there's different tax reasons or stuff like that, but you should be able to access those accounts after 59 without penalty. Certain taxes may apply. So when we're planning for retirement, if you're in retirement in those early years, if you're lucky enough to retire pre-59 and a half, you're going to want to have some different things planned out for those reasons. Again, the age-based reasons is, again, if you're retiring younger, consider those penalties that may apply. It could have a significant role to the success long-term from that perspective.
Yeah, and switching gears here now, talking about taxes, and I'll start with a client story of what not to do. They came to us several years back and everything, and they were working with a different financial planning firm, and their advisor at that time had said, "Hey, you're retired now. Your only other income in their case was Social Security. And so let's take all of your income from those Roth IRAs that you've built up that are tax-free, because then, hey, guess what? Your income will be tax-free." And they sort of questioned it a little bit, but they had been doing this for some time before they finally sat down with us. And essentially we had to share with them, okay, this was not probably the best financial decision from a tax planning strategy, because meanwhile, they had a significant amount of assets over in their traditional IRAs that had continued sort of building up. And so when we had looked at long-term projections, it basically put them in a really bad spot down the road when they had to start taking money out of their traditional IRAs, and then a significant amount of their Social Security became taxable income, and all of a sudden it just sort of was a tax nightmare. So again, there's going to be different ways to approach when and how to structure that income. The biggest point here is to factor in taxes into the overall plan, whether you've got, IRA dollars, Roth IRA dollars, after-tax brokerage types of accounts or savings accounts, and when to draw from those. So we've got a team here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, a special tax team that works directly with clients in figuring out a plan that best suits you.
Great. So you think of now we have age, tax, and now let's wrap up with investment decisions and way can we do this. So commonly, let's say you have a multitude of different investment accounts out there. You have some, let's say, in savings, maybe, which is not producing a ton. And then you have some other funds over here in investment accounts, hopefully getting decent returns, but obviously experiencing potential volatility along the way with the market's ups and downs. So where should you be pulling the money from? Now, again, depends on situations and there's other qualifications, but generally speaking, you may want to consider pulling from, I'll call it the steadiest account. The accounts is most predictable, and also taking from those that aren't yielding as much, allowing time to be your friend long-term and those assets to appreciate and value to use long-term. So again, if you have those different options out there and you're planning for structured income, we've talked lots about that before, right? How to generate income and all these sort of things. If you've missed some of that stuff, it's available on our YouTube channel. You can go back and see all of those different segments about those sorts of situations. But again, speaking, where should we be looking from an income perspective to generate this? When we look at investments, consider pulling from that least volatile source to give you the most predictability with your income.
Yeah, and so again, the key point here is ultimately to have a plan. So we've talked through when you're figuring out the order of account withdrawals, you have to consider your age, you have to consider taxes, you have to consider the investments and how those are structured. And sort of a bonus tip here is health insurance. That's another key part if you're starting to look at being on the marketplace plan prior to age 65 and retiring at that point, where you want to consider how your income is structured to potentially get some health insurance subsidy. So again, the key thing is putting together a plan, mapping it out to make sure that you have the longevity built on your side and that you're factoring in these different pieces with the taxes and the investments that are ultimately going to help you plan to retire well.
Every business says they're better, but the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we feel education is paramount to wise decisions. Your retirement should not be left to chance. Our team of advisors has put together an educational half-hour-long program to discuss the many complex decisions you'll be faced with in retirement, including income, investment, estate, taxes, and healthcare. Tune in weekly to learn about all these topics and so much more, or visit cen-wealth.com.
Hey, welcome back to the classroom. We're bringing out the chalkboard here to go through what it looks like to do decisions that people and everybody makes every single day. Dollar decisions. So when I was about 15 years ago, I was teaching personal finance, Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, and one of my students challenged me. They said, "Mr. Klunder, thanks for Dave Ramsey and all his wisdom, but is there anything else out there?" And so I love that. And so I took that challenge on and I started, a deep dive into everything that wasn't Dave Ramsey. Not to, diminish anything that he's doing, but just out of curiosity. And I came across Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow statement and financial statements. And I thought it was pretty curious to maybe pass it along to you. And so we'll define what he's used before as his definitions. Some of these are going to be pretty simple, you'll understand. So we have income, expenses, and then down here in the financial statement, we have assets and liabilities. He defines assets as things that put money into your pocket, and he defines liabilities as things that take money out of your pocket. So we broke it up into 3 different scenarios that we're going to run through with you. The first one here is something that might be more surviving. Okay, what the cash flow and financial statements of people that are just surviving. So Leah, why don't you kick it off? Where they're getting their income from.
So when you're striving, you're trading your time for money, okay? So maybe you're working 40 hours a week, maybe you're working more than 40 hours a week, but your money's coming in, and then you have expenses that you have to fulfill, right? Some of these expenses may include housing, transportation, foods in there, and maybe a little bit of memories, right? So on the screen that Jack showed out, your money's coming in and then it goes out into your expenses.
So we're not even messing around with any of the assets and liabilities yet if we're surviving.
Correct.
Every dollar in, every dollar out.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So let's go to the next one here, where now we can talk about, what a striving situation might look like. So do we still have a job?
Yep. You're still trading your time for money.
All right. So here's our job, trading time for money coming in.
And then your expenses are actually liabilities, okay? So maybe you own a house. Maybe it's education. maybe a car that you now own. And then also memories are going to be there as well.
Okay, so now what we're doing is you're gonna start actually buying things. Okay, so we might take some debt onto that situation where, like Leah said, okay, we have to have a roof over our head. We might have gone to college and bought an education. Maybe there's still some debt through loans there. The vehicle now is on our liabilities situation, and so when money from the job comes in, this is where those dollar decisions come in. What are we doing right there? Okay, well, in these situations, they're saying, all right, I'm gonna come down here, I'm buying a house, and then it's gonna go out through a mortgage, okay? So job, money, dollar decision, I bought my education, it's going out as an expense. I'm now paying for my vehicle, and it's going out as an expense. Okay, so we haven't really done anything yet in the asset column because we're striving. Now, one other thing that you might see in this situation would be maybe retirement savings. So if we're going to be talking about retirement savings, as we kind of give a segue to the last part of our teaching here, what are some things though that they might start in this situation using some of their dollars for?
So some dollar decisions to start planning for retirement would be your 401k. Maybe it's your Roth IRA or just a traditional IRA.
Yeah, so then what you can see there is, okay, so traded some time for money. Now those dollars might start going into the asset column. Okay, we start building that portfolio. So stay tuned. We're going to be back with the best, how to thrive, and what does that look like for dollar decisions. Stay tuned.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it. And leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes? That's where we come in. We are financial professionals. From investments and insurance products to tax reduction strategies and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, provided by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. You've worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary consultation, simply contact us today.
Welcome back to the classroom, okay? We have our chalkboard out and we're still working through dollar decisions. So at this point we want to pick right up where we left off. We were in the striving mode. You had your job that produced income, and right here is the dollar decision. So now we're going to talk about how you can take this decision and instead of going through your liabilities, how you can turn it into different assets. So real estate, investments, stocks, bonds, ETFs, maybe you have a business, maybe it's gold or silver.
Yeah, so what Leah's explaining there, as you make those dollar decisions to start that investment stream, okay, you can start getting over to the thriving cash flow statement and financial statement. And so a way that we're going to remind you of how Robert Kiyosaki defines an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. And so if you think about dividend paying stocks, for instance, okay, there are people here at Centennial that they love that idea and it makes a lot of sense. And so our clients have a strategy of dividend paying stocks. They're putting money into their pocket, okay? So they're saying, yep, we're gonna bring this into our income. All right. Or they might have rentals in real estate, okay? And those rentals and those real estate, okay, is bringing money into their pocket. Some of them, maybe some of these higher net worth business owners, they're figuring out how to transition, okay, to that thriving. And either they're looking at the sale of their business or they're going to shift their responsibilities so that they don't have to get caught here trading their time for money, okay? And there's a lot to consider. And so one of the things that you'll notice about this thriving cash flow statement is we minimize the liabilities, we increase the assets. The assets are what is producing our income, which means, and the whole goal is to get rid of the job. Now, I will say this, okay? If you still have mission, that is something that will never get old or go away. And so as we help people, transition into retirement, they'll say, well, what am I going to do if I don't have a job? Cool. Leah, do you have any examples of people that, didn't lose their mission even though they retired from their job?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes people like to keep their job, but maybe they just want to go part-time. Maybe it's, I love this job so much, these people, it's what I'm meant to do. Maybe it's 15 hours a week at the same place, right? Maybe it's somebody that had a lot to do with education and that kind of stuff. They wanted to be done with school or wherever they were at, but they still have a mission to help those kids that are needed. So maybe it's now they're maybe a parapro. Maybe they're involved with their church and spending time with the kids like that. So that's been a really fun thing to watch and listen to and be a part of and hear those stories.
Absolutely, because when they have a plan that's built out, okay, when they have this thriving type financial statement, cash flow contentment, one of the things we look at first is where is their contentment in the cash flow? Where is their contentment? What are they looking to accomplish? We can go all the way back here, okay, because these dollar decisions start as soon as you start making a dollar. Okay, so what does this look like? And then where is the contentment? And because of what we get to do, we get to see a very wide range of contentment. But we have the tools to give incredible feedback to our clients. This is where your cash flow contentment is. Now, let's go all the way out to age 100. Look so far ahead. See if that's the outcome you're looking for, and then we're just going to reverse engineer to today's dollar decision. Hey, we need to start saving a little bit more. Hey, I get that you had a lot of fun memories, but maybe we need to, tamp down the memories just a little bit to, make those dollar decisions get you into a thriving type situation. And there are a lot of moving parts, but that's the best part of our mission is we get to personalize those kind of decisions. And we just coach, we educate. And I know when people understand things, right? I taught long enough. And when they get to the understanding of their particular plan, there is a piece that surpasses all understanding. You can watch it in real time. So we have 5 different locations all across northern Michigan. Feel free to call and get your no obligation, free opportunity to personalize a plan so you can understand your cash flow statement.
When it comes to your financial future, what's the value of a truly objective opinion? As someone looking for financial guidance, you have choices. There are thousands of captive financial professionals who work as employees for large national insurance companies and brokerages. There are also many independent financial professionals who aren't bound to any given insurance company, investment strategy, or product. So what's the difference, and why does it really matter to you? Consider this. If you walked into a doctor's office with a sore throat, a bad cough, and a high fever, you'd expect that doctor to assess your symptoms, do a thorough diagnosis, and ultimately hand you a prescription written to cure your particular ailment. In other words, you'd expect the doctor to consider all the medications available and give you his or her absolute best thinking on what's best for you. On the other hand, if that doctor opened the cupboard and only had 3 or 4 prescriptions available, maybe those offered by his or her favorite pharmaceutical rep, most patients would immediately raise an eyebrow, suspicious that they might not be getting what was really in their best interest. The same may be true for your financial well-being. If your financial professional is an employee who's contractually bound to represent a given insurance or investment company, only offering their products while there are literally hundreds of others available, how sure can you be that you're being offered what's truly best for your situation? You don't walk into a tailor or seamstress shop to get clothing off some rack. You go for a custom tailored fit. And with something as important as your financial future at hand, the stakes are even higher. We believe you deserve a truly objective opinion. We think you deserve to consider more of the available options. And we believe your financial future is worth a custom-tailored prescription to help you feel confident for the days ahead. If you'd like a second opinion on your current retirement strategy, simply contact our office today.
Here's a question we get from quite a few clients. How do I save for my grandkids? I want to gift them some money to them, but I'm not sure how to do it. So if you're thinking about saving for money for a child, your kids, your grandkids, or even a niece or nephew, you might consider an UTMA or UGMA account. Now, UTMA stands for Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, and UGMA stands for Uniform Gifts to Minors Act. Both account types are straightforward and useful savings tools for families. So UTMA and UGMA accounts are considered custodial accounts. The account is set up in the child's name for their benefit, but an adult, like a parent, grandparent, aunt, or uncle, manages the money on behalf of the minor. Now, once the account is set up, anyone can make contributions to it. So family members could put money in the account for birthdays, graduations, or other special occasions. The custodian, however, is the only person allowed to manage the account, meaning this person makes the decisions on the account, like how to invest the funds. Now, these decisions should be made in the best interest of the minor. And even though the custodian manages the account, the money is considered an irrevocable gift and is the child's from the moment that it's contributed. So when does the minor gain control of the account? Well, that typically happens when they reach the age of majority, usually age 18 or 21, depending on what state the account was set up in. Now, some states set an age of majority as old as 25. And at that point, the child has full control and can use the money however they choose. So UTMA and UGMA accounts have a few advantages over other savings options. Flexibility is one of the biggest advantages of these accounts. The money can be used for anything that benefits the child, not just education. So that could include like school expenses, first car, or even starting a small business. UTMA and UGMA accounts are also fairly simple. They're easy to open and don't have strict contribution limits like some other savings options. There are even some tax advantages to these accounts. Because the account is in the child's name, some of the investment earnings may be taxed at the child's lower tax rate depending on the situation. That said, there are a few disadvantages to choosing an UTMA or an UGMA account. One is loss of control. So once the child reaches the age of majority, the money is entirely theirs to use however they want. So if your intention for those funds was something specific, it won't matter because the money becomes theirs. Second is the potential loss of financial aid for higher education. UTMA and UGMA accounts are considered the child's assets, which can have a bigger impact on eligibility for need-based financial aid compared to accounts owned by a parent. And third, there's that irrevocable component that I mentioned earlier. Once you put the money in the account, you can't take it back. The custodian can still make withdrawals while they're managing it. However, the funds need to be used for the direct benefit of the child. Now, you may be wondering how to choose between an UTMA or an UGMA account. Well, the answer is going to lie in how you want the money invested. UGMA accounts are limited to financial assets like cash, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. UTMA accounts, on the other hand, allow for a broader range of assets. So in addition to those included for UGMA accounts, UTMA accounts can include real estate, artwork, or other types of property. One important thing, though, to keep in mind, not every state allows for UTMA accounts, so that could also limit your decision. UTMA and UGMA accounts are a great fit for someone who wants a flexible and straightforward way to save for a child's future, without locking the money into a specific purpose. So if you're comfortable eventually handing over control to the child and want a simple way to build long-term savings, then these types of accounts can be a smart option. But if you're wanting a more defined goal for your money, like college savings, then you might want to look at other options. So if you're interested in learning more about savings options for kids, give us a call for a free, no-obligation consultation. Our team at Centennial Wealth Advisory can help you weigh the pros and cons of each account or investigate other ways to leave a gift and legacy for your family.
Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, and to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Long-term care is something we hear a lot about, and as we have conversations with you guys that come in from watching our show and even at our dinner events, it's a big risk that we have in retirement plans. The most recent numbers I saw for Traverse City, Michigan was for an assisted living facility approaching $7,000 a month today. And we look at inflation, these are massive costs that we foresee coming up down the road. And what's important about these long-term care costs is these are kind of the base costs. And recently looking at facilities for my mother, we found as we add additional services, these costs start to go way up from there. Things like if we want to have more than one shower a week or pill management or some of these other, I would call kind of basic needs, continues to drive these costs up. Now, what we talk about a lot is individuals will come in and say, well, I'm going to spend more early in retirement. My expenses are going to kind of drop off later because I'm going to do less. Well, when you start looking at long-term care, it's almost like a hockey stick. Our expenses kind of maintain themselves, then they go dramatically up later in retirement. So it's sort of the opposite of what we think. Well, why am I bringing this up? Well, we've seen some tremendous growth in the market the last couple of years. This offers a really great time to be stress testing your financial plan to see how long-term care may impact it. And then think about, well, maybe if we've seen some appreciation in our portfolio, maybe rebalancing it, taking some of that growth off the table, putting it in maybe some sort of insurance policy or some other type of investment where we can self-insure, but more so protecting ourselves against that long-term care risk. If you haven't built out a financial plan, you haven't stress tested your financial plan against these type of events, it's probably a great time to do that and maybe start taking some action today about taking some of this market growth that we've seen over the last few years and solving for that long-term care need that, truth be told, is inevitable and we're probably going to come up in the next few years for us.